All right, so we're on day 3 of Unit 3, and this is called Even and Odd Functions. And it says that functions can be identified as either even, odd, or neither by either testing or proving. We are not going to prove even and odd functions this year. We're just going to show you how to um, test to see if they are even or odd in our calculator. And we're going to be able to do it using our table in our calculator. We'll also be able to tell by how they look on the screen when they're graphed, but you should still always check the table as well, because sometimes the graph can be like super close but like off a little bit, and it could be a little bit deceiving in certain graphs that they give you. So here we go. In number 1, it says graph the following functions in your calculator. Oh, so PS, you're going to need your calculator. I don't know how to pull up a calculator while I'm on this program, so I have mine side by side. I'll write down as much as I can, but you should also have your calculator side by side so you make sure that you're typing in and getting the same stuff I am getting. Okay, and it says that we're going to write down a table for the interval from -3 to 3. And then we're going to hypothesize, which means we're going to kind of think and guess and use educated guesses about which function is even, odd, or neither, and then with an explanation of why. So we're kind of doing like an experiment, see if we can figure it out first without me having to tell you. So the first one up is g of x. It equals x to the 4th plus 2. So we're going to go to y equals. If you got something in there, clear it out. And then you're going to type in x, which is next to alpha, caret, which is underneath your clear button, raise it to the 4th power, arrow over, and then hit plus 2. And then we're going to go right to our table, so hit second graph, and we're going from -3 to 3. So I got to scroll up a little bit to get to -3, and then we're just going to copy down our values. So we have a table, x, y, and we're going from -3 to +3. We're just going to copy down those values. So -3 is paired with 83. -2 is paired with 18. -1 is paired with 3. And then 2. And then 3. And then 18. And then 83. So you might notice something there. Might play an important role in determining if it's even, odd, or neither. Okay, I'm going to do the next one. So I'm going to go back to y equals. I'm going to clear it out. In this one, I would definitely recommend putting the whole numerator in parentheses. So I'm going to start with a parenthesis, 3x squared plus 4, and then I'm going to close the parentheses so my fraction knows that that whole expression is in the numerator, and then I'm going to divide it by, and then I'm going to do my whole denominator in parentheses. If you keep that in mind, whole numerator in parentheses, whole denominator in parentheses, it will keep you out of trouble from typing in something wrong that your calculator misreads. Okay, so always remember with a fraction, if you remember to group your whole numerator in parentheses like this in the calculator and your whole denominator in parentheses like that, that'll keep you out of trouble. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit second graph and go to my table. And again, it's asking for an interval from -3 to +3. And I'm going to copy down my values. -3 pairs with -10.33. -2 goes with -8. -1 goes with -7. 0 has an error, and I think you guys might know why. If you remember that our function is a fraction and you cannot divide by 0, if x is 0, it's not going to be able to give you a y value or an output, and so it gives you an error, makes it undefined. Okay? But your calculator will say error, it won't say undefined. Okay? 1 is paired with 7, 2 is paired with 8, and 3 is paired with 10.3. Although they shoved another extra 3 in there just because there was no negative sign in the top one there. But if you hover over that 10.33, and the very bottom is going to tell you that it actually doesn't stop at 33. It actually is a repeating decimal. Okay, it goes on forever. Okay. All right, so you might see something in there that might spark some curiosity about whether that's even or odd or neither. Okay. All right, so we're going to go back to y equals. We're going to clear it out, and we're going to type in our last one. Fractions should always go in parentheses. So parentheses, 2 divided by 3, and close it up, and then caret, and then you're going to put x as the exponent. Okay, we're going to go to our table, and we're going to copy it down. Again, it asks us for the interval from -3 to 3, and so that's what we're doing in the x column. And -3 is paired with 3.375. -2 is paired with 2.25. -1 is paired with 1.5. 0 goes with 1. 1 goes with 0.6 repeating, even though it says 0.66667. They're rounding. You can hover over it if you want to see. 2 is 0.4 repeating, and 3 is 0.2963. And there might be more digits after that one too. If I go and hover over it, yep. And actually it's 0.296, and the 296 actually repeats. There is no 3 in there, so that must be them rounding. So we can erase that 3 and just put the bar over the 0.296. Okay. All right. So hopefully you guys see something. My calculator froze. Actually, my whole phone froze. So that's always fun. Let's see if we can get out of there. Okay, we did. All right. So hopefully you are seeing no pattern in here. And so that's why this graph is a neither. However, you guys might see a pattern in here with the first one and the last one and the second one and the second last one and the third one and the third last one. Okay. However, you see a pattern over here as well with the first one and the last one, the second one and the second last one, the third one and the third last one. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about even. An even function is a function where if you have opposite inputs, so for instance, 3 and -3, and they have the same outputs. So which one has opposite inputs, like 3 and -3, and they have the same output, same exact number that they're giving out? And that's the first one. And so this one right here is even. Okay, so again, if you want to take a closer look, -3 and 83, 3 and 83. So the inputs or the x values are opposite, but the output values are the same. Okay, and that's what makes that even. So odd is very similar, except it's opposite inputs, but they have opposite outputs. So again, if you take a closer look at, let's say, -3 and 3, those are opposite inputs, -3 and 3, but they give you opposite outputs, -10.33 repeating and +10.33 repeating. And so that's what makes this odd. All right, and if there's no pattern, that's how we get neither odd nor even. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and explore some questions and see if we can figure out which functions are even or odd or neither. Okay. Just real quick, I think it's very easy to remember odd, opposite, opposite, opposite. It's got a bunch of O's in it. So odd function, just remember opposite inputs, opposite outputs. Okay. When I think of the word even, I kind of think of like even Steven, like things are the same, like it's fair. So even, think same. Okay. I feel like those words go together. Okay. All right. So here we go. Going down, we're going to do 2, 3, and 4. And in number 2, it says, which of the following functions is even? Well, we got some typing in to do. So we're going to take our calculators. We cannot tell just by the equations. Some people think that they can. For instance, they look like for even exponents. And they're like, oh, it must be even. Not so much. So the only way to tell is to go ahead and type in the equation and look at each table. So we're going to go ahead and do the first one in the first choice. And so x squared minus 4x. And if I look at my table, I see -3 is paired with 21, and +3 is paired with -3. Well, those outputs are not the same nor opposite, and so number 1 is a neither. Okay, so I'm going to go to choice 2. So I'm going to go back to y equals, clear it out. And that's absolute value bars that x minus 6 is in. So we're going to have to go find our absolute value. It's in your calculator. It's very easy to find. In fact, everything in your calculator, you know how like a textbook has like an index in the back? So like if you're looking for something, you just go there and it tells you exactly what page it's on. We have something called a catalog in our calculator. It's right above your 0 key. It's in blue, so you have to hit your second. So hit second, 0. In ABS, first thing that pops up in the alphabetical catalog is our absolute value. So we're going to hit enter. And if you notice in your calculator screen, it puts the bars in there and it lets you put something in between them. So we're going to type in x minus 6. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and second graph to go to our table. And looking at this one, I have -3 is paired with 9. And +3 is paired with +3. And so again, those outputs are neither the same nor are they opposites, and therefore number 2 is a neither. Okay, and again, you don't have to compare -3 and 3. It just seems to be the easiest since that's what we were doing up above. But you can compare any two opposite inputs. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back to y equals, clear it out, and I'm ready for choice 3, which says 9 minus x squared. And I'm going to hit second graph. And again, you don't have to look at -3 and 3, but I am. So I'm going to go, and -3 is paired with 0, and +3 is paired with 0. And I'm glad that I looked at that one because this is one where you don't want to use. There is no such thing as -0. 0 is a neutral number. It's not positive nor negative. And so I'm going to have to look at a different pair. So I'm going to maybe go with -2 is paired with 5. And +2 is paired with +5. And so right there we have opposite inputs, and they have the same output. And remember, same is even. And I believe that's what the question is looking for. And so I'm going to say that it's choice 3, but I don't ever do multiple choice like that. I will always go and do the fourth one. And so I'm going to go back to y equals, type in 4 to the x, and I'm going to go to my table, and I'm going to make sure that it is not the right answer. And so in number 4, -3 is paired with 0.01563, and there might be more decimals after that, but that should be good to look at. And +3 is paired with 64. So you can see that there's no correlation between the outputs in that one. And so I'm going to cross this one off because this is a neither, and I'm going to go with my answer of 3. Okay. All right, on to the next one. They want to again know which function is even. So we're going to go back to y equals, clear this out, and this is something you've never seen. In fact, we're going to graph trig functions later on in the year, but this is sine x. So we're going to go ahead and type in sine, which is 2 keys above your 7, and we're going to follow it with an x. Okay? And we're going to go ahead and look at our table. And on our table, we can see that -3 is paired with -0.0523, and that +3 is paired with 0.05234. And so you can see that we have a correlation between our outputs, but they are opposite. The one that goes with -3 has a negative in front of it, and the one that goes with +3 doesn't. And so these are opposite inputs, opposite outputs. And so number 1 is not even, but number 1 is odd. Okay, but they're looking for which one's even, so we're going to keep going. Okay, so back to y equals, choice number 2 says x squared minus 4. Going to go to our table. And in our table, we see that -3 is paired with 5, and that +3 is paired with +5. So right there, you see that those outputs are the same. So opposite in, same out. And same outputs means that this is even, and that's the one we're looking for. So I'm going to circle it, but I usually don't stop there. I like to make sure that I can eliminate my other 2 choices. So I'm going to go to 3. I'm going to hit second catalog to get my absolute values. I'm going to type in x minus 2. I'm going to arrow over. So I'm outside to hit the +5. And then I'm going to go to my table. And in my table, -3 is paired with 10. And +3 is paired with 6. And so there's no correlation between the outputs. And so number 3 is a neither. Okay. Go back to y equals, clear it out. And I'm going to type in x caret 4, move over, plus 3x caret 3, move over, plus 4. And I'm going to go to my table, so second graph, and I can see that -3 is paired with 4, and that +3 is paired with 166. And so again, no correlation between the outputs. And so we're going to say that this is a neither, and I'm going to keep my choice of choice 2. And I'm 100% positive that it's right. Okay, by looking at your other choices and eliminating them. So in number 4, we're going to go back to y equals. It says, which equation represents an odd function? And if you remember that in number 3, we said that sine x was odd, and choice 1 in number 4 is sine x, and they're asking about an odd function. I'm going to go ahead and say that it's probably choice 1 based on what we set up there, that this is odd. That's going to be my answer. But again, I don't like to stop there. So I'm going to go ahead and type in cosine x. And I'm going to look at what is paired. And so we have -3 paired with 0.99863. And we have positive 3 paired with 0.99863. And again, that is the same as that, and therefore cosine x is actually an even function. Okay, you got opposite inputs have the same output. However, they're looking for which one is odd. So I'm still sticking with number 1, but I'm going to go to number 3. So I'm going to go back to y equals, clear it out. And I'm going to type in parentheses, x plus 1, close it up, raise it, or caret, to the third power. Hit second graph and go to my table. And I have negative 3 is paired with negative 8. And I have positive 3 paired with 64. And there's no correlation between those outputs. And so this is a neither. Okay. Go back to y equals, clear it out. And that is e to the 5x. So we have an e button. It is 2 buttons above your on key, but it's in blue, so we have to hit second, and it's an LN key. And if you notice the E pop up in your y equals, and then we're going to type in 5x as its exponent, and then we're going to hit second graph to go to our table, and we have negative 3 paired with 3.1 e to the negative 7th. All right, so if you guys don't know what that e stands for in your calculator, this is right here is in scientific notation. That is saying, that's the same as saying 3.1 times 10 to the negative 7th. Okay, and positive 3 is paired with 3.27 e to the 6, which again, this is scientific notation. This means 3.27 times 10 to the 6th. All right, that's how your calculator notates scientific notation. All right, and you guys can see that those have no correlation in the outputs, and so this is a neither. And so we're going to go ahead and stick with our choice 1. Okay. All right, so down below it says testing a function. This way can only be used on multiple choice questions where work is not graded. If we had to prove, there's a whole way of proving, but for the sake of the year, we decided that that's a tough topic, and we're going to chop that out. It does not show up that often, and so I think we are going to be okay without it. You can still be able to tell whether a function is even, odd, or neither, and that is going to be sufficient. All right, I will see you guys on the back side of the notes for one more problem.